Hello and welcome to this compilation of the 10 top tips that should help you do really well in your listening and reading Spanish GCSE papers. Before we get started, let me give you some really practical hands-on tips that could really help you. So for example, both for the listening and your reading, one of the things you should have at hand are highlighters, okay? Highlight things, underline things from the question. That should really help you focus on what it is exactly that you need to answer. Also, answer every single question. Even if you have got no idea, have a wild guess. Answer. Don't leave anything blank. Another thing that is really good to do is pay attention to everything about the question, the layout, if there are any pictures, any images, anything. Just look at it all and absorb it all and take any information to help you, basically to help you decide on possible answers, especially in those times where you haven't really picked up what might be the actual answer. Also, of course, use common sense, especially again for those questions that you're unsure about the answer. Remember that as well, that if the question is in Spanish, you must answer in Spanish. If the question is in English, you must answer in English. Don't make mistakes, because then otherwise the answer won't count. And also, don't worry if the answer to, if there is like a multiple choice question and the answers seem to be A, B, C, and D. It may well be A, B, C, and D, okay? Things don't have to have weird patterns. So don't worry too much. If you're convinced that those are the right answers, go for it. Regarding the listening, things that can help you massively are things like, for example, get familiar with the patterns of the beeps, okay? Know when the first repetition has finished, when the second repetition has finished, okay? You don't want to be there wondering, was that the first time or the second time I heard it, okay? So get familiar with the beeps. Also get familiar with, you could make a note, for example, know when is maybe only the example is being read out, or whether it's the example on part 1 or the example and questions A and B. Okay, so just listen out for that, and if need be, make a little note at the side of the paper. Okay, this brings me to the next piece of advice. Own that paper. You can write stuff all over it, except for where your answers are supposed to be and on the barcode. Okay, otherwise you can write around it. You can be scribbling things down as you hear things, or as you sort of come up with possible words that you might hear. Do use the paper in any, however you like it, as long as your answers are clear and you don't write anything on the barcode, okay? Other than that, use the time before the recording, okay? Those 5 minutes you have before the recording has started, use it to read every single question, know exactly what the question is asking you to do, and also in between questions, use that time. There shouldn't be any sort of staring out the window. Use that time to read the question, because that is key and you won't have any more time, okay? So just use that up. And now let's have a look at what our top 10 tips for Spanish GCSE listening and reading are. Reading the question properly may seem like an obvious suggestion, but it's something that doesn't get done well enough very often. Let's have a look. We've got here a question, and the title of the question is Maria's Holidays. So I'm not going to pay attention for now to the text in Spanish. I'm just going to pay attention to what there is here in English. So by reading Maria's Holidays, I know that this is the recount of someone's holidays. Then I read the actual question, what I need to do. So what does the article tell us? So I know that this is an article and that I need to put across in the 3 correct boxes. So this is the other important bit of information, the fact that I've got to mark 3 in order to get the full marks. And then I carry on reading. So I'm going to now get a lot of information on what the text says without actually having read the text. So Maria and her parents went on a trip to the coast. So from here, I know that it's a recount of Maria's holidays. So Maria may have gone on holiday with her parents, or maybe not, and that the trip was to the coast or maybe somewhere else. I also know that they may have got lost during the journey. Or maybe not, so we'll see that the text should shed light on this. The coach broke down on the motorway, so I know they may have gone on a coach or maybe a different form of transport, that there was an incident, probably that something broke down, and maybe that happened on the motorway, maybe somewhere else. Also that maybe someone rang the police. that maybe the police arrested the coach driver. So it seems to be that maybe that it's quite likely to have been some police involvement and that someone got arrested, possibly coach driver, possibly not. Also that people may have had to make their own way home, that maybe the company did refund the money or maybe not, and also that Maria's family may have written a complaint to the travel agents. So this information may be like this in the text or slightly different, but I already know quite a lot about this text. So it's definitely about the holidays, definitely something didn't go quite right. There were different people involved and there was some sort of incident possibly involving the police and a coach or something like that. Now when I read the text, that will become much more apparent and much clearer. Okay, so this is the first reason why we need to read the question properly, because the English or the content of the question, the content gives us often a lot of information before even we start reading the actual text in Spanish, or before we actually hear the the recording in Spanish. The other reason why it's important to read the question properly is because of this. I've got here a different question where I've got to give an answer to this question. How is Gabriela's personality described? So if I read the text in this sentence, it would say Gabriela era una chica muy optimista y extrovertida, pero ese día estaba especialmente triste. And the text would carry on. Okay, so according to the Spanish, I know that Gabriela was an optimistic and extroverted girl or young woman, but that day she was especially sad. Okay, so I've got here 3 candidates to be the answer to this question: optimista, extrovertida, triste. Now, if I read the question properly again, how is Gabriela's personality described? I'll see that optimista and extrovertida could be possible answers. However, triste is not going to be an answer, because triste, sad, is not describing her personality, but how she's feeling, her current mood. So the answer in this case would be something on the lines of optimistic or extrovert. Okay, so paying attention and making sure that we answer the right information. Having a good knowledge of question words in Spanish will help us answer the right information. You may encounter different questions or different possible questions, and understanding the question word that opens that question is going to be crucial for you answering the right thing. So let's have a look at what these possible question words might be. So we could have, for example, ¿Qué compró el chico? ¿Qué compró el chico? This question would mean what did the boy buy? We could find a different question. ¿Quién compró el pan? ¿Quién compró el pan? In this case, we're being asked who bought the bread. Now we could find a very similar sentence, a very similar question, but the question word is different. ¿Cuándo compró el pan? ¿Cuándo? Here we're being asked when. When did he buy the bread? So notice that the answer to this, ¿Quién compró el pan? The answer might be el chico. ¿Cuándo compró el pan? The answer might be ayer. Completely different answers to very similar questions where what changes is the question word. Let's carry on. ¿Dónde compró el pan? ¿Dónde compró el pan? Here we're being asked when. Where? Where did he buy the bread? Where? ¿Por qué compró el pan? ¿Por qué? We're being asked why. Maybe he had some friends round for dinner, or maybe it was just first thing in the morning and he wanted it for breakfast. ¿Cuánto costó el pan? ¿Cuánto costó el pan? ¿Cuánto? How much? How much? How much was the bread? But notice these 4 previous questions look very, very similar, but what changes is the question word. ¿Cuánto costó el pan? How much did it cost? ¿Cuántas barras de pan? Notice same word. ¿Cuánto? How much? ¿Cuántas? How many sticks of bread, how many bread sticks did he buy? ¿Cómo compró el pan? ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo? Here meaning how. How did he buy it? Did he buy it, I don't know, did he buy it cash? Did he buy it by car? Did he buy it online? Maybe he did an online shopping and that's how he bought it. And then this one here, ¿Cómo era el pan? It's the same word, but notice this ¿Cómo is meaning how, but ¿Cómo can it also mean what like? So in this case, what was the bread like? Okay, what was it like? ¿Cómo era el pan? What was the bread like? So remember that ¿Cómo could mean how, could mean what it is like or what it was like. Okay, so notice the really high importance of understanding exactly what we're being asked. Right, what are negatives? Negatives are words like, for example, in Spanish, we could have negatives such as no. Guess what it means? No. Brilliant. But we also have expressions like ni, which can be followed by another ni. So ni will be neither or neither nor. Also another negative is nada, nothing, nadie, nobody, nunca, never. We also have tampoco, neither. And we also have ningún and ninguna, none. So if I say, for example, ningún, no tengo ningún problema. I haven't got any problems. No tengo ninguna idea. I haven't got any ideas. Okay. So all these are words that convey negative meanings. And why do I call them pesky? I call them pesky because they can change quite a bit the meaning of the sentence. So for example, if I have a sentence such as Nadie vino a la fiesta. Nadie vino a la fiesta. So I would think that somebody came to the party, but this somebody is nadie, nobody. So it's actually a negative expression. Nobody came to the party. Or nunca he visitado París, for example. Nunca he visitado París. I may think that this person has visited Paris, but actually it's nunca, never, so they haven't visited Paris. So that's why it's important to understand that it's conveying a negative meaning. And sometimes the exam paper might try to mislead me into thinking that, that the meaning is a different one. So I have here, for example, this possible question. So the question is, how did Isabel communicate? How did she communicate? And if I read the sentence that would give me this information, the sentence is, mi amiga Isabel siempre me escribía cartas y nunca me mandaba ningún mensaje de texto. So the most obvious mean of communication here is mensaje de texto. This is a cognate and I recognize it straight away. But careful, because I have nunca me mandaba ningún mensaje de texto. Nunca and ningún. She never sent me any text message. And where is the actual answer that I need? Because this is not the answer that I need. The answer that I need is here, cartas, because siempre me escribía cartas. She always wrote letters to me. So the answer would be by letter. And I need to be careful because these negatives are trying to mislead me into thinking that the actual answer is text message. Also important to know these words is because sometimes that word might be isolated and it might be the key word that I actually need for the answer. So here, for example, the question is, according to the circled answer, how do you know that Manuel is not generous? So this is a questionnaire that Manuel has filled in. And the question is, ¿Cuánto dinero das a obras benéficas? How much money do you give to charitable work? And he's circled nada. So if I don't know what this means, I might, write anything else. But if I know that nada is nothing, I know that the answer to why he's not generous, because he does not give money to charity, okay? And that would be the correct answer. Now, a couple more expressions to bear in mind. They're not directly negatives, but they can also express slightly different meaning from what we might expect, are the expressions excepto, which means except for, a excepción de, also with the exception of, and salvo, which is another way of saying except. So I could say, for example, me gustan los dulces, I like sweets, excepto la nata. I like sweets except for cream, okay? So excepto la nata, except for, a excepción de la nata, or salvo la nata. So in this case, this is giving me the idea that I don't like this, okay? Although I may have been led to believe by the beginning of the sentence, sorry about this, that I actually did like it, okay? So bear in mind things also like this: excepto, a excepción de, and salvo. Sometimes, especially in crossover questions, the word you're looking for might not be the most obvious, okay? It might not be expressed exactly as you are expecting to see it. So this in Spanish is una zanahoria, but especially in crossover questions, you might come across this as una verdura naranja, okay? This is a bit of a simple example, but just so that you see, okay? They may avoid using the word zanahoria and go around it using a synonym or using a longer expression. Other things like, or more typical things you might encounter, things like, for example, en invierno, okay? So you may be asked when something happens or when someone does an activity, and one of the options says en invierno, but the text doesn't say en invierno. In the text, it says something like en enero or en febrero, and relies on you knowing that January or February are invierno, winter. Another example on the same line would be the same thing en verano. An option could be en verano. The correct option could be this, but the text might not say en verano. The text might say en julio or en agosto, in July or in August, relying on the fact that you know that July or August are summer. Another thing that you could find, for example, is if someone was described as caro, okay, expensive. You may find the word caro, but you might also find things like no es barato, it's not cheap, or cuesta mucho dinero, it costs a lot of money. So things are not always expressed in the most straightforward way. Let's have a look at this example here. I have a text and I have to identify the two statements out of these four. So Elena does not like sports, so I might be expecting to find something like deporte here, or deportes, I might or might not. Elena likes swimming, okay, so I know that swimming is natación. Elena swims twice a week, okay, so I know that twice a week is dos veces por semana. Or Elena swims once a week, okay, so I know that this is una vez por semana. However, if I read the sentence where my answer to this is Elena es muy deportista y va a la piscina los martes y los jueves. Okay? So, I don't have any of these expressions here. Instead, I have that Elena es muy deportista. So, Elena es is sporty. Therefore, this, she does not like sports, is not true, okay? Because I need to pay attention to the fact that she says not. She does not like sports. So this is not true. Va a la piscina los martes y los jueves. She goes to the swimming pool. So Elena likes swimming. So this is going to be one of my correct answers. In fact, I should probably represent it like that, okay? So this is one of my correct answers. I don't find natación, I find va a la piscina. Elena swims, so now I need to find out whether she swims twice a week or once a week. So va a la piscina los martes y los jueves, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's twice a week. So this is my other correct answer. But notice that I haven't found any of the expressions, of the more obvious expressions that I was expecting. Instead, I found synonyms or other ways to say of saying the same. Sometimes in the exam, things are not what they seem because they use distractors. Distractors are things that try and trick us into answering the wrong thing. And this especially happens in multiple choice questions. So questions where I've got a choice of 3 or 4 different possible answers. This happens especially if I'm expecting to find exactly the word that it says in the options or the words that the direct translation of one of the options. So let's have a look at this example. The question is, they visit their grandparents and possible answers are weekend, week, 6 months, or year. Okay, so I could think, okay, so weekend, I might find fin de semana. A week, I'll find the word semana. 6 months are 6 meses. 6 meses. And year, I know that year is año. Give me 1 second. Now, año. Okay, so if I am going desperately trying to find one of these words in order to find my answer, I'll start reading and go, cada verano durante el mes de agosto. Okay, hold on, I've got the word mes here, so I've got meses. Okay, so it might be this, 6 months. Cada verano durante el mes de agosto visitamos a nuestros abuelos. Okay, but I need to read a bit further because I've just fallen for it. Okay, I've seen mes, I know that this is meses, so I've chosen this, but actually this is not the correct answer. This is an incorrect answer. Why? Because if I read cada verano, every summer, durante el mes de agosto, during the month of August, we visit our grandparents. So every summer during the month of August, it means that they visit their grandparents every year. Okay, so once a year they visit their grandparents. So here is my answer, which has not got to do that. There's not the word año in the text, but they've used different words. So do not fall for those possible distractors. Very often your answers will need precision and just anything won't do. This is especially the case with time phrases. Okay, when something happens or when someone does something. So expressions that we might encounter and that we need to know well are things like siempre, always. It's not the same as normalmente, usually, o habitualmente, also usually, or habitually. Also a menudo. So normalmente is not the same as a menudo. A menudo is often, but it might be less than normalmente. I also have, for example, muchas veces, many times. Or I could say a veces, sometimes. Or I could say de vez en cuando, every now and again. Or pocas veces, few times, not that often. Or rara vez, rarely, also possibly raramente, also rarely. Or I could have nunca, never. Okay? Important to bear in mind as well, these expressions can be combined with others. Like, for example, if I say a menudo, that's not the same as saying muy a menudo, very often. So a menudo is often, muy a menudo would be very often. Or bastante a menudo, quite often. I could use muy and bastante, for example, for here as well. Muy de vez en cuando, every now and again. Muy de vez en cuando would be very, every so often, okay? It's more rarely than de vez en cuando. I could also say muy pocas veces, very few times, rather than just few times, okay? So do bear in mind these things, and that you have to be precise. Also important to bear in mind two more words. One really important one, casi. Casi means almost, okay? So I could say, for example, siempre, always, but if I say casi siempre, that's almost always, okay? I could also say casi nunca, which would change nunca, never, into almost never or hardly ever. So bear in mind this expression, casi. And another interesting expression is apenas. Apenas is another way how we can say hardly ever, okay? Casi nunca and apenas are basically the same thing. So bear these expressions in mind. And a couple of other good time expressions to bear in mind are things like hace 3 días, 3 days ago, hace 3 meses, 3 months ago, hace 3 años, 3 years ago. Okay? But if I say hace 3 días que, this is for 3 days. So hace 3 días que me duele la espalda, I've had pain on my back for 3 days, okay? Hace 3 meses que me duele la espalda, I've had pain on my back for 3 months. So notice this que changes the meaning. So it goes from 3 days ago to for 3 days. And also, I could have, for example, without the que, I could have desde in front. If I have desde hace 3 días, forget the que, that would be for, like it's been happening for 3 days. Okay? So, for example, me duele la espalda desde hace 3 días is actually the same as hace 3 días que me duele la espalda. Okay? So bear all these expressions in mind, expressions of time. Let me show you an example of how these precision in expressions of time might be required. So we've got here 2 questions. How often does she compete? So this person is talking about competing in some sort of sport. And how many times has she been skiing? So let's read the two bits that are going to give us the answer. So this person says, aunque practico mucho deporte, casi nunca participo en competiciones. So although I practice a lot of sport, casi nunca participo en competiciones. Hardly ever or almost never I take part in competitions. So if we see nunca, we might be tempted to write never, but we must make sure that we spot this casi, almost. So almost never or hardly ever. If I wrote never, that would be incorrect. And then how many times has she been skiing? He ido a esquiar muy pocas veces. So pocas veces, few times, but notice muy pocas veces, very, very few times. It's possible that if I just wrote few times, I might not be given the answer as correct because it's muy pocas veces. Okay, so spot the detail and write it down. being able to express yourself in different tenses, it's really important for the writing tasks, especially for the longer tasks, and also for the translation. In translation tasks, there will often be things in the present tense, things in the past, and things in the future. So you must make sure that you know how to express those ideas. But also it's really, really important to be able to identify those tenses, both for the listening and reading, because there tends to be always activities where either directly or indirectly you are expected to identify whether something is happening, whether something happened, or whether something will happen. So it's really important. For this reason, it's important to understand and be able to recognize what the different forms look like. So let's start with the present, which is probably the most common. And it's important to remember that the most common ending of the present is o. So the I ending is o. So of course, if I want to say I sing, will be canto. Hablo will be I speak. Salgo will be I go out. So verbs ending in o, forms ending in o will be the I form of the present. Of course, also in a or e will be the he or she form. So for example, canta, he or she sings. Bebe, he or she drinks. Okay, we also have the amos or hemos or imos for the we form. We also have the an or en, so cantan, beben for the he or she form. So it's important to familiarize yourself with the most common endings. Other than also of course these as far as regular verbs are concerned, but of course there are some irregular verbs which are some of the most common ones. So remembering forms like soy, I am, es, he or she is, somos, we are, son, they are, but also the other to be verb, the estar, so estoy, está, he or she is, estamos, we are, están, they are, okay? And also verbs like tener, tengo, and I have, and so on and so forth. So also have a quick look at some of the most common irregulars. In terms of the past tense, remember there are different past tenses in Spanish, so there are going to be different possible forms. So remember, if we're talking about things that happened, past events, past events, the most common ending, so if I did something, the most common form will be an ending in e, or in e with an accent, okay? So for example, viví, I lived, or cociné, I cooked, okay? So this is for the I form. Of course, if we're talking about he or she, we would say vivió, he or she lived, cocinó, he or she cooked. If we're talking about what we did, would be comimos or cocinamos or bebimos, so it will be an imos or an amos. And for they, it would be an hieron, bebieron, or aron, cocinaron, okay? So these are the most common endings if something happened or if we did something. Of course, for what things used to be like, or what things we used to do, used to be, used to do, okay? This will be the imperfect, and let's remember there are two common endings of the imperfect. So for AR verbs, if for example I used to cook, cocinaba, and that's going to be the sort of the most identifying trait, the ab, okay? Cocinaba, I used to cook. Cocinaba would also be he or she used to cook. Cocinábamos, we used to cook. And notice I'm not giving every single ending, okay? That we've got the you, singular and plural. I'm not going into them. I'm just giving you the most sort of common and used ones, but of course go and look at all of them. So cocinábamos, we used to cook. Cocinaban, they used to cook, okay? But then if we have verbs ending in er or ir, that the endings are very different. And for example, if I want to say I used to drink, bebía, or he used to drink, also bebía. We used to drink, íamos. So here the identifying bit is this ia. Or they used to drink, bebían, okay, so for the used to. And also we've got what things have happened, okay, things that have happened. So we have the e plus ado or ido. So for example, he cocinado, okay? He cocinado, I have cooked. He bebido, I have drunk, okay? Or he or she ha cocinado, ha bebido, or we hemos cocinado, hemos bebido, or they han cocinado, han bebido, all right? So these forms will all be forms of the past. And then if we go on to the future, the most identifiable form would be the voy a plus infinitive. So for example, voy a cantar, I'm going to sing. Va a cantar, he or she is going to sing. Vamos a cantar, we are going to sing. Van a cantar, they are going to sing. So the near future, the going to. But then there is the other form of the future, which is the one with the ending. So for example, from cantar, okay, from cantar, I would say cantaré. So the e ending like this, with an r in front, so with the full infinitive in front. So cantaré, I will sing. Cantará, he or she will sing. Cantaremos, we will sing. Cantarán, they will sing, okay? And then also consider the form of the future. If we look at the conditional, what things would happen, okay? In that case, let's remember that we're going to be using the same endings as this, but we are attaching them to the full of the imperfect. So cantaría, I would sing. Cantaría is also he or she would sing. Cantaríamos, we would sing. Cantarían, they would sing. Okay? So these are the most identifiable endings that will really help you work out whether something happened, is happening, or will happen. But sometimes there are other ways of identifying, of working out when things happened, or will happen. And it's through the use of time phrases. So let's have a look at what would be the most common time phrases for each tense, okay, or for each time frame. So let's remember we've got here present, we've got here past, and here we have future. So if I'm looking at present, so if things happen now, what time phrases am I likely to encounter? So things like hoy, today. I could also find hoy en día, which would be nowadays. I could also encounter ahora, now, or ahora mismo, right now. I could also say ya, already, ya, or right now. I could also find all sorts of frequency expressions like normalmente for things I usually do, habitualmente, cada 2 semanas, okay? I could also find the expression desde hace. So for example, desde hace 2 días, okay? Desde hace 2 días. No bebo agua desde hace 2 días. I haven't been drinking water for 2 days, okay? So this desde hace is the for, okay? No bebo agua desde hace 2 días with the present tense. So this is something that I'm doing or not doing right now. If I'm looking at past, what past expressions could we use and could we use to identify whether something happened? Whether something happened in the past. So we could encounter things like, for example, ayer, yesterday, anteayer, the day before yesterday, anoche, last night, anoche. We could also find things like recientemente, recently. Also, of course, things like el año pasado, last year, el mes pasado, last month, la semana pasada, last week. I could also find things like hace, for example, hace 2 años. Hace 2 años, 2 years ago, okay? And here the hace is the ago. Notice difference. It hasn't got the desde, okay? So hace 2 años, 2 years ago. It could be hace 2 semanas, 2 weeks ago. Hace 3 meses, 3 months ago. And also expressions like cuando era pequeño, when I was young, o cuando era más joven, cuando era joven, o cuando tenía 1 año, when I was 1 year old, okay? So any of these and others could signal that something happened in the past. And then if we look at the future, expressions that we might encounter would be mañana, tomorrow, pasado mañana, the day after tomorrow, pasado mañana. We could also find something like el próximo año, o el próximo mes, next year, next month, o la próxima semana, next week. We could also, of course, hear expressions like en el futuro, or also things like, for example, dentro de 2 años, This dentro de is in, so in this case would be in 2 years' time. Dentro de 3 semanas, dentro de 3 meses. Okay, so all of these expressions would be signaling and would be showing us and giving us clues of when things happen. So let's look at an example of something we could find in an exam. We have here a conversation, an interview with Álvaro, and we have to say whether how Álvaro's choice of activity has changed over time. And we need to write a P for something that happened in the past, N for something that's happening now, F for something that will happen in the future. Remember that here there could be 3, there could be 4, doesn't necessarily have to be one of each, okay? There could be there could be more than one. It could be that there's nothing on the past, or nothing in the present, or nothing in the future. So don't necessarily go there to find one of each. So hiking. So let's have a look. So hiking, swimming, climbing. Álvaro says, el deporte es importante para ti. Is sport important for you? Then he says, totalmente, cada mañana me levanto temprano y voy a la piscina. Totally, every morning I get up early and I go swimming. Mi pareja va conmigo al polideportivo. My partner goes with me to the sports center, pero prefiere el gimnasio, but she prefers the gym. So, voy a la piscina. Okay, so we've got piscina here related to swimming. Okay, and so we could say, okay, so voy a la piscina, not get misleaded. It's not voy a plus infinitive, it's voy a as I go to. So we've got the verb here. This verb is in present. And also we have cada mañana, okay? So it's for usual things. So it's likely this to be now in the present, okay? And in fact it is, because the verb is in present tense, and also it's telling us of a habit, something you do every morning. If we continue reading the interview, we'll see that he's asked about whether he's always done swimming, and then he goes on to say, antes practicaba alpinismo y me encantaba, pero me rompí la pierna y ahora tengo que hacer actividades menos peligrosas. Before, I used to do hiking and I loved it, but I broke my leg and now I have to do less dangerous activities, okay? So, what do we find here? We have, on the one hand, we have practicaba, okay, ending in aba. So this is signaling an imperfect, so something that I used to do. And also there's this expression, antes, meaning before. We need to add this one to our list of expressions that will give us ideas on when something happened. So both things put together work out that hiking is something that happened in the past. And then he carries on to say, will you go back to the mountains? Yes, I love mountains. Si tengo suerte, volveré a ir el próximo año, quizás para hacer escalada. So, volveré a ir el próximo año. So, notice we've got a time expression, el próximo año, next year. We have here volveré, with the future tense, okay? So, volveré a ir, I will go back again next year. So we've got the time expression, we've got the tense in the verb, and we know, therefore, that this is the future. point is really worth bearing in mind for those people who really panic at the sight of a longer piece of text, or when there is quite a long bit of talking and they don't think they can find the right answer. Don't panic, okay? You will never be required to understand the whole thing, okay? And quite often, very often, the information that you need to understand is actually contained in a tiny percentage of the text. Actually, last year in one of the exams, in one of the questions, you only needed to understand 6% of the words in order to get full marks in that question, okay? So do not panic. I'll give you an example of what I mean. So I have this question: what is Sandra going to wear at the party? So let's imagine this is a listening comprehension activity, and this is what I might hear as a response to this question. Tengo muchas ganas de que llegue la fiesta de Darío y Valentina. Va a haber comida y bebida y va a venir un grupo de música folk, porque a Darío le encanta. Yo voy a ponerme un vestido azul que compré ayer. So, there's quite a lot of chit-chat here, but actually, what I need for my answer is a tiny, tiny, tiny part of all this long explanation of the party. I've got here what I've just said. So, tengo muchas ganas. So, I'm really looking forward to Darío and Valentina's party arriving or being here. There's going to be food and drink, and a folk music group is going to come to the party because Darío loves it, or loves this music. So far, I've given no relevant information to answer this question. What's she going to wear at the party? I'll carry on. I am going to wear a blue dress that I bought yesterday. So my answer is a blue dress. But notice how what I actually need to understand, un vestido azul, is a tiny part of the whole of the listening fragment, okay? So don't panic, just focus on the information that you need. Often, not always, okay, not always, the information will be requested in the same order as it appears in the text. Okay, so as in the same order as you hear it. So you may have the different questions that are asking you things as they appear or as you hear them in the recording, or as they appear in the text. Exceptions to this are questions where you have to identify whether something happened in the past, is happening now, or will happen in the future. Okay, it would be far too obvious if the questions were in order, okay? And also questions where you have to match. So, for example, match people to activities they would like to do, or match opinions, or who said what, okay? Anything that involves matching, of course, it won't be in order, because then again, it would be far too obvious. Other than that, most of the questions will be in the order as the information is presented. And this can really happen. Let's see why. I have here a recount of Valeria's daily life, okay? And this is a type of question where I have to fill in some sentences in English with some options. The first thing I need to mention of this, which hasn't really got to do with the order, but the first thing I need to mention is that usually, as I read these sentences, there tend to be usually two possible answers, okay? So my first sentence is Valeria lives in. So if I look at the options, so the possibilities are going to be a flat or a house. She gets up, it's probably going to be either early or late. She goes to work, it might be by car or on a motorbike. And she works as, okay, so that's going to be a shop assistant or a teacher. All right. So generally, I can sort of narrow down my options this way. And then I'll start reading and trying to find my answers. So, vivo en un bloque de pisos en el centro de Madrid. Okay, so I identify here, vivo, okay, vivo, I know that's I live, so she's talking about herself, so I live in un bloque de pisos, okay, bloque de pisos, so my options are flat or house, so bloque, that's like block, okay, so I'm going to say a flat. I carry on reading. Por la mañana siempre me levanto temprano. Okay, not sure about that. Normalmente voy a trabajar trabajar, work. Okay, so I've got work en moto. Right, that's going to be a mean of transport. So that's going to be the motorbike. So on a motorbike. So I've got this answer. And then she works as, porque es lo más práctico, ya que en Madrid hay mucho tráfico. Trabajo, hold on, I've got another work here, en una tienda de ropa. Okay, ropa is clothes. I think tienda is shop. So she works at a shop, okay, donde soy dependiente. I am, okay, so my options are teacher and shop assistant. Dependiente is definitely not teacher, because I know that's profesor or profesora. Therefore, that's going to be a shop assistant. Okay, and then I'm missing one. I'm missing this one. So I know that my answer to this one is here, un bloque de pisos, flat, and moto is here. So the answer to this one has to be here. So por la mañana me levanto. Okay, yes, me levanto, that's I get up. I remember now. And my options are late or early. So temprano, okay, I know that late is tarde, therefore temprano is going to be early. Okay, so can you see how I've been able to isolate to find my answer, because I had the answer from before and the answer from after, and that narrowed down the bit of text where the answer to the second sentence could be. So use that. Get yourself in the zone. What do I mean by this? This can be especially useful for the listening. And what happens, you have just finished the previous question, you've moved on to the new question, you've read the question really carefully, all the instructions, all that there is to know. You know this very well, by the way. This is the most important thing you have to do, as you know, read the question properly. But then there's still a bit of time until the recording starts. What can you do? Okay, you can get yourself in the zone. And what do I mean by this? I mean, start thinking of what things you might hear, or what sort of topics they may discuss. Okay, so we've got here, this question is local area, and you're going to be listening to Angela talking about problems in her town. So let's say I've got a bit of time to spare, so I'm going to start thinking of possible problems that I might hear in Spanish about her town. So I could hear que hay demasiado tráfico, too much traffic, o que hay demasiados coches, too many cars, or I could hear about los atascos, traffic jams. I could also hear complaints about el transporte público, public transport. I might hear that there are problems with el tren. El tren siempre llega tarde, delayed, late. O hay retrasos, delays. Hay problemas con el autobús, problems with the bus. O no hay suficiente, there isn't enough, okay? No hay suficiente something. I could also hear that there are problems with rubbish, la basura, hay demasiada basura. O hay muchos papeles por el suelo, okay? O que no hay limpieza, there's no cleaning service. Another problem could be el ruido, the noise, el ruido. It could also be, for example, que hay mucha contaminación. El problema es la contaminación, pollution. O el humo, the smoke of the cars, el humo del coche o de los coches o de los o del tabaco. We could also find que no hay espacios o zonas verdes. O no hay nada que hacer. There's nothing to do. We could also hear the different things that are in her town. Hay un cine o no hay un cine. Hay un polideportivo o no hay un polideportivo. Now, what we are doing with this is putting ourselves in the right frame of mind. It's really, really, really important to remember, really crucial, not to expect to hear these, okay? So I would say, do not expect to hear these words necessarily, okay? If you do this, even if it's in your head, and then you really go chasing and trying to hear these words exactly, that could mislead you because you may not hear any of these. But what you're trying to do with this is just retrieve information, go in your brain in the bit where you learned all about town and bring all that vocabulary fresh and all those topics, all those possible things that you discussed in class, all those possible issues that you discussed. And that should help you understand, open up your mind a bit more to what you're going to hear, okay? But really important, don't stick to these and don't expect to hear just these because you probably will not. In fact, you would be really lucky if you heard, if you were able to anticipate every single answer that you would hear. That would be fantastic, and I would really like to have a word with you. But otherwise, this will just open up. Okay, this is just meant to open up your mind, okay? That's it. So, that's it for me, guys. Buena suerte y hasta pronto.